The truth about aging. 5 myths you need to stop believing after 60. There comes a time in life when the calendar pages seem to turn faster than they used to. One day you're chasing children around the house, the next you're watching your grandchildren do the same. And somewhere along that journey, quietly and almost imperceptibly, society begins to whisper things in your ear. Things like, you're too old for that, or that ship has sailed, or perhaps the most insidious of all, you should just rest now. You've had your time. But what if I told you that those whispers are not truths, but myths? That aging, far from being a slow fading away, is in fact a powerful, vibrant, and beautiful transformation. Welcome to today's video, The Truth About Aging, 5 Myths You Need to Stop Believing After 60. This isn't just another health video or a list of do's and don'ts. This is a call to remember who you truly are, to return to the roots of your strength, to stand in the second act of your life, not with resignation, but with fire in your soul and clarity in your eyes. Because let me tell you something no one says often enough: 60 is not an ending, 70 is not a sentence, and 80 is not a cage. These are thresholds, these are beginnings, these are seasons of deep wisdom, of long-earned freedom, of choosing what truly matters. And if you're lucky enough to still wake up each morning with breath in your lungs and thoughts in your mind, then you, my friend, are still very much alive. But to truly live, to truly embrace these golden years, you must first unlearn the lies, the myths, the assumptions that cling to your shoulders like a heavy coat that no longer fits. Today, we're going to gently take that coat off. We're going to lay down the beliefs that have been holding you back, and we're going to reclaim the truth about aging your truth. I want you to pause for a moment and look around you, not with your eyes, but with your heart. Think of all the things you were told aging would bring. Maybe you've heard that life after 60 is just a waiting game, that everything slows down, that dreams expire, that adventure belongs to the young, that romance is for someone else, that creativity, purpose, and growth have a deadline, and that you've passed it. But look deeper. Look at the 74-year-old woman who started painting for the first time and had her art displayed in a gallery, or the 82-year-old man who became a yoga teacher not because he was flexible, but because he believed in movement and peace, or the countless men and women who fall in love, again start new businesses, write books, travel the world, or mentor the next generation, not because they have to, but because they want to. That desire, that spark, it doesn't die with age. If anything, it becomes purer, more focused, less distracted by the noise. When you're young, you're often climbing the ladder. When you're older, you finally see the view, but it starts with releasing the lies. In this video, we're going to walk through 5 of the most common myths about aging, myths that have likely touched your life, whether you realized it or not. We'll talk about the belief that you're too old to learn, the idea that your best years are behind you, the notion that health declines are inevitable and irreversible, the assumption that loneliness is just part of aging, and the heartbreaking myth that you no longer matter. But today I want to give you something more than just facts or studies. I want to give you stories. I want to give you perspective. I want to give you yourself back. You see, growing older isn't about fading away, it's about refining. Like a sculptor chiseling away the stone to reveal the form beneath life, in your 60s, 70s, and beyond is about clarity. You begin to see what truly matters. You begin to feel more deeply, not less. You begin to understand time not as something to outrun, but as something to walk with. There is a quiet power in aging, a sacred dignity that cannot be rushed. You become the keeper of stories, the guardian of lessons. You are no longer trying to prove your worth to the world. You've lived it. You are the proof. Yet we live in a culture that too often glorifies youth while ignoring the radiant richness of age. Youth is beautiful, but so is experience and wisdom and grace earned from having walked through both fire and tenderness. Your wrinkles are not flaws, they are the markings of a life well lived. They are the trails of laughter, of tears, of resilience. So let me ask you right here at the beginning of this journey together, what if aging was not a decline, but a rising? What if your greatest purpose has not yet revealed itself? What if the love you've been waiting for, the voice you've silenced, the dream you've put on a dusty shelf? What if all of that is still waiting for you, just around the next corner? This video is not about denying reality. Of course, bodies change. Of course, some things become harder. But harder is not the same as impossible. And aging does not mean breaking. It means becoming. So as we begin this series, this exploration, I want you to carry just one question in your heart. What else might be possible for me? Let it echo softly in your thoughts. Let it color the way you watch the rest of this video. Let it guide you when the old doubts start whispering again. Because the truth is, after 60, there is still time. Time to grow, time to forgive, time to try, time to love, and most of all, time to live with courage and curiosity again. You've already lived decades of stories, but there are still chapters left to write, and the pen is in your hand. What else might be possible for me? When you carry that question in your heart like a small seed, it begins to grow into actions, into clarity, into changes that may seem small on the surface, but can shift the entire course of your life's final chapters. But in order to move forward, you must first have the courage to confront what has been holding you back. In this next part, we're going to shine a light on 5 of the most common myths people over 60 are told or tell themselves. These myths are like invisible chains, quietly limiting the freedom, joy, and meaning you're still very much capable of living. Let's begin. Myth 1-1, I'm too old to learn new things. If you've ever stared at a new phone and sighed or hesitated before signing up for a class or thought, why bother? I'm too old to start learning now. You're not alone, but you're also not right. Modern neuroscience has proven something remarkable. The human brain remains capable of learning at any age. What scientists call neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections, is alive and well long past your 30s or 40s. In fact, every time you challenge yourself to learn something new, whether it's playing an instrument, learning to cook a new dish, or mastering a smartphone, you are literally keeping your brain young and active. I once met a 76-year-old woman who started learning Python coding just so she could better understand what her grandson was studying in college. She didn't need a degree. She didn't want a job. She simply wanted to connect, to stay mentally alive. When I asked her why she started so late, she smiled and said, "Because I'm still breathing." That one line says it all. As long as you are alive, you can learn. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to feel the thrill of growing again. Myth number 2, the best years of my life are behind me. This is perhaps the most painful illusion of all, that life peaks somewhere in your 30s or 40s, and everything after is a slow decline. But that belief is not truth. It's memory, dressed up as judgment. Sure, youth has its spark and energy, but aging brings depth. In your younger years, everything is new but also confusing. As you grow older, you know yourself better. You love with more wisdom. You forgive more easily. You let go of the nonsense. You understand what truly matters. Isn't that its own kind of beauty? Each stage of life has its own light. And when you believe the lie that your best days are over, you become blind to the magic happening right now. Let's not forget Colonel Harlan Sanders, the founder of KFC, began his business journey after the age of 60. If he had believed it was too late, millions of people would never have heard his name. Stop measuring life by time. Start measuring it by the fire that still burns inside you. Myth number 3. Health declines are inevitable and irreversible after 60. It's true that the body changes with age, but that doesn't mean you're doomed to weakness or deterioration. In fact, your habits play a much bigger role than your age ever will. Too often, people over 60 assume that chronic pain, poor sleep or foggy memory are just part of getting older. And because they believe it, they stop moving. They stop eating mindfully. They stop trying. And of course, things get worse. But it's not your age, it's your mindset. I've seen 65-year-olds who walk daily, eat well, and meditate, and who are far healthier than many 45-year-olds living recklessly. One man I met diagnosed as pre-diabetic at 70 didn't surrender. Instead, he changed. His diet took up light yoga and began swimming twice a week. Within 8 months, his blood sugar stabilized without medication. The body doesn't demand youth. It simply asks for your partnership. Treat it with care, and it will still surprise you. Batiko. Myth number 4. Loneliness is just part of growing old. This is a heavy one. As we age, its true friends pass away. Children move out. Partners leave or pass on. The silence can feel loud. The house too still. The heart a little heavier. But loneliness is not destiny. It's a signal, a quiet nudge asking you to reconnect. There are countless ways to do that today. Senior reading groups, walking clubs, music classes, mindfulness circles, local libraries, and online communities designed just for people over 60. You don't have to disappear from the world, you just need to open the door again. I met a woman who, after losing her husband, felt completely adrift. She lived alone. Her children were far away. She could have withdrawn, but she didn't. Instead, she volunteered at a library, reading to children. That one choice gave her mornings filled with laughter, purpose, and smiles. You don't need a crowd. You just need connection, a shared laugh, a quiet coffee, a long walk with someone who listens. And that kind of connection is always available if you're willing to reach for it. So, myth number 5, I no longer matter. Perhaps the deepest wound of all, the silent fear that after retirement, after the kids have grown, after your titles and roles fade, you no longer have value. Let me tell you something clearly and gently. You matter. You always have. You always will. Your value is not defined by a paycheck or a busy calendar. Your worth is not erased because fewer people call. You are the keeper of wisdom, the one who has walked through storms and can guide others through theirs. You are still a voice worth hearing, a presence worth feeling. I once heard someone say, elders are not just old people, they are the soul of the tribe. That's you. You are the one who knows when to speak and when to stay silent, who can share not opinions, but perspective. And more than anything, you are the example, the living proof that life is about more than speed and status. Life is about depth. Even now, your life ripples outward in how you love, in how you forgive, in how you simply show up honestly and fully. You are not done. You are not irrelevant. You are still writing your story, and the next chapter could be the most powerful yet. Seamless transition. Now that you've seen these 5 myths for what they are, untrue, limiting, and far too common, I invite you to do one small thing. Choose just one belief to let go of today. Maybe it's the idea that you're too old to start something. Maybe it's the thought that your best days are over. Maybe it's the habit of shrinking into the background. Whatever it is, release it, even just a little. Pick one action to replace it. Call someone, sign up for something, write something down, look in the mirror and say, I'm still here, and I still have so much to give, because you do. There's a quiet turning point that often arrives in our 60s. It doesn't come with fanfare. It doesn't knock loudly at the door. It's more like a whisper, soft, persistent, unspoken, echoing from deep within. Is this all there is? For some, it shows up during a sleepless night. For others, it comes in the silence after children have grown or after retirement papers are signed. It's not the kind of question that seeks answers right away. It's the kind that lingers in the soul and gently urges us to reconsider the path we've been walking. Because here's the truth many are afraid to say aloud. After 60, you're not fading, you're unfolding. You're not winding down, you're waking up. But to live fully at this stage in life, you must begin with the courage to re-examine your habits of thought and your daily behaviors. not to criticize them, not to regret them, but to ask a deeper question. Do these patterns still serve the person I've become? Most of us live according to stories we didn't even choose, stories handed down by family, society, fear, or old wounds. These stories tell us what's possible, what's respectable, what's safe. And as we age, those stories often become rigid walls keeping us inside a life that feels too small for the size of our spirit. If you want to live not just longer, but deeper, fuller, brighter, you must first become a student of your own mind, because what you believe shapes what you see, and what you see becomes how you live. This is the invitation to begin living not out of habit, but out of awareness. Awareness is the beginning of wisdom. You wake up and ask, not what do I have to do today, but what would nourish my soul today? You pause before reacting and ask, what does this moment need from me? You meet yourself not with judgment, but with kindness. That is the shift from living on autopilot to living with presence. And presence is where the beauty of life is found. After 60, life slows just enough for you to finally hear your own heartbeat again. And in that slowing down, you can begin to reshape the rhythm of your days. Maybe you start your morning not with urgency, but with silence. You let the light fall gently through the curtains and greet the day as a guest you've been waiting for. You stretch your body not to conquer, but to reconnect. You sip your coffee as if it's a sacred ritual, not just a habit. This is what it means to deepen into life, not to fill every hour, but to be fully awake in the hour you're in. Changing your mindset also means redefining your relationship with time. For most of our lives, time is a race, a clock we're always running against. But after 60, you're invited to step out of the race and step into rhythm. Time becomes less about minutes and more about moments. You begin to savor slowness, not as laziness, but as luxury. You begin to notice how a single smile, a shared glance, a walk through the garden at dusk can hold more meaning than a dozen check marks on a to-do list. Living more fully also means giving yourself permission to evolve. You are not who you were at 30 or even 50, and you're not meant to be. Yet so many of us cling to outdated versions of ourselves, the roles we once played, the expectations we once carried, the identities we once wore like armor. But there is deep freedom in letting those old skins fall away. There is beauty in standing at the edge of your own becoming and saying, I am ready to meet the person I'm still growing into. At this stage of life, change doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be as simple as choosing a different thought, a softer response, a more honest no, a more wholehearted yes. As you shift the way you think, your actions will begin to follow. You'll notice the desire to declutter, not just your home, but your calendar, your mind, your relationships. You'll feel drawn to what feels real and repelled by what feels performative. You'll crave conversations that go beyond the surface. You'll find comfort in solitude, not because you're withdrawing, but because you've learned how to befriend yourself. You'll begin to create space, not just in your environment, but in your heart for peace to land. And here's the beautiful irony. When you stop chasing after life, life starts coming toward you. When you stop trying to prove your worth, you start living from it. When you stop fearing the end, you start tasting the richness of the now. You begin to realize that life isn't asking you to do more. It's inviting you to be more honest, more curious, more open, more at ease with yourself. And perhaps the most profound shift of all is this: you stop measuring your life by how much time you have left, and you start measuring it by how deeply you are living it today. You realize that even if you only have 1 year left, or 10 or 20, that time is not the true currency. Presence is, love is, kindness is, courage is, gratitude is. You begin to live in a way that leaves a gentle imprint, not because you're trying to be remembered, but because you're finally remembering who you are. You become more intentional with your words, more generous with your listening, more daring with your dreams, and you start choosing joy, not the loud performative kind, but the quiet, steady joy of simply being alive. Some days will still be hard. That's the nature of life, not the failure of it. There will be aches that deepen, goodbyes that linger, questions that remain unanswered. But even in those moments, you will carry a different kind of strength, the kind that says, I've been through storms before and I am still here. And being here, fully present, fully awake, fully yourself, that is the triumph of this chapter. So how do you live deeper after 60? You start by slowing down. You continue by looking within. You expand by letting go. And you shine by simply allowing your light to be what it is, no longer hidden, no longer muted, no longer dimmed for the sake of others. You are not too late. You are right on time for the life that is waiting to be lived through you. And maybe, just maybe, this is the most important work of all, not building something new out there, but uncovering the sacred that's already in here. This is your invitation to live not only longer, but wider, wiser, and more wondrously than ever before. Now that we're reaching the final steps of this journey, I want you to pause just for a breath and check in with yourself. Feel what's happening inside you right now. Maybe a quiet sense of peace, maybe a small light awakening in your chest, or perhaps just a subtle but powerful realization. There is still so much life left for me to live. As we move through our 60s and beyond, something interesting happens. The world around us begins to quiet down. Fewer people call your name, fewer schedules demand your attention, fewer responsibilities pull at your time. But in that silence, you may begin to hear the most sacred sound of all, the voice of your own soul. Youth is the season of doing. Middle age is the season of duty. But life after 60, this is the season of meaning. And to live it fully, you don't need to do more. You need to feel more, notice more, and love more. We live in a world overflowing with noise, where success is measured in speed, status, and spotlight. But growing older gives you a precious gift, the ability to see beyond all that and recognize what truly matters. Sometimes it's something as simple as a warm meal with family, a quiet afternoon beside a window, a handwritten letter sent without expectation, the tender grip of two wrinkled hands that have weathered decades of life together. Living deeply after 60 is not about living differently from others. It's about living in alignment with yourself. It's about knowing when to speak and when to be silent. It's about choosing the path that may be less popular but more peaceful. It's about daring to be gentle in a world that worships aggression, daring to be quiet in a society addicted to noise, daring to come home to your own heart again and again. And in that coming home, you will realize something beautifully simple. The greatest legacy you leave is not what you built, but how you made others feel. It's not your wealth, your achievements, or even your name. It's the calm you carried, the grace you showed, the kindness you extended when no one was watching, the love you gave without keeping score. You were once a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a teacher, a friend, but beyond all that, you are a soul who has walked through time, a being who has stumbled, learned, fallen, risen, broken, and healed. And what you can leave behind is not just your possessions, it's your energy, your essence, the feeling people get when they remember you and whisper, they made life softer, kinder, better. When you smile, the world slows down. When you listen deeply, someone feels truly seen. When you forgive, a heavy chain falls to the ground. When you live sincerely, you plant seeds others may never forget. Old age doesn't take away what's most precious. It brings you closer to it. It offers you simplicity. You no longer need much. A wooden chair on the porch, a good book, a gentle prayer, a hot cup of tea, a friend who understands. And in that simplicity, you find wholeness. And so now the question begins to shift. It's no longer, What else can I do? But instead, who am I still becoming? You can be the keeper of wisdom for your family. You can be the one who knows when to stay quiet and when to speak with love. You can be the example of calm in a stormy world. You can be the one whose presence lights up a room, not because of what you say, but because of how you make people feel safe, seen, and loved. No one else can fill that role for you. And the beauty is, you don't need to try to be someone anymore. You only need to be more of yourself. Your presence, with an open heart and a gentle spirit, is already a priceless gift. Maybe you felt like the most important chapters are behind you, but I promise you, this part of life can be the most profound, because now you are free. You no longer live to impress, to compete to win. You live to choose, to love, to slow down, to see clearly, to show up. And if you've been feeling lost, if you've been carrying loneliness, if you've been wondering whether you still matter, please place your hand on your heart. Feel the quiet rhythm, the breath still flowing in and out. And know, as long as you are here, you are still a source of light, love, healing, and change. Don't wait until you have it all together. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission. Your life is still calling you back right now. So live. Live slowly so you can feel. Live deeply so you can understand. Live brightly so you can be a light for others. Live fully as if each day is a gift waiting to be unwrapped. And if you need something simple to start with, today let it be this: love yourself. Not through indulgence, but through gentleness. Not through self-flattery, but through self-compassion. Not by trying to be perfect, but by honoring who you are, right here as you are. You've spent your life showing up for others. Now show up for you softly, fully, and with reverence. Because when you are true to yourself, you give others permission to be true as well. So if anyone asks what's left in life after 60, smile and say everything's sacred. Because now I know how to live with truth, with heart, and with grace. Thank you for walking this journey with me. The path doesn't end here, it's only just opening up. If these words spoke to you, come back to them when your soul needs a reminder. Share them with someone you love. And remember, the best parts of life are not always behind us. They're in how we choose to live today. May your days be slow. May your heart be full. May your spirit stay soft and brave. And above all, may the years ahead be your most meaningful yet. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the upcoming exciting videos.